What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mind Something. If you're new here, my name is Jake, and in today's video we're going to take another look at the 4070 Ti. Now that we have some real-world hash rates, we're going to take a look at the news, we're going to take a look at profits, we're going to take a look at Flux for just a moment. And before we get into it, do me a favor, hit the like and hit the subscribe if you haven't already. And without further ado, let's jump straight in and take a look at the market. We are pumping right now. Time of recording is Sunday night at about 8:20 p.m. January 8th. Bitcoin is coming in at $17,199, up about 3.5% on the 7-day. Ethereum sitting at almost 1,300, up about 8% on the week. And then we've got XRP sitting at roughly 35 cents. Cardano is coming in at 33 cents. Dogecoin at almost 7.5 cents. Polygon Matic at 85 cents. Polkadot at $4.90. Solana is up to $15.96, up 61% on the 7-day chart and over 20% in the last 24 hours, and up 8% in the last hour. Let's take a look at Toncoin. Toncoin is still recovering from the dip from its previous pump that it had a couple of weeks ago. Let's go ahead and take a look at Kaspa real quick. Kaspa is up almost 8%, and as you can see, we pumped up all the way to half a cent earlier today. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ergo. Ergo is up about 5.5% right now, looking pretty healthy, back up to $1.26. And the Oxa is almost up. Oh no, it is now down 1.38%. And I also wanted to take a look at Radiant real quick. So Radiant is up about 2.3%, sitting at 0.00075. Let's go ahead and take a look at mining pool stats real quick and just see what difficulty is it looking like, as well as emissions. So I thought this was kind of odd. Jericoin has pumped up to the number 4 spot, and I don't know if this is an API issue or not, but yeah, it's putting out $464,000 a day in emissions currently. And look at the gap between Chia and Kaspa. 280,000 a day versus 116,000 a day. It's a pretty significant gap, but you'll notice difficulty is down on Kaspa about 7%, and it was quite a bit lower, but in the last 24 hours it's starting to pick up again. And then let's see what else we got. Flux difficulty is down 10% over the last 7 days. Ergo difficulty is up pretty much sideways. Let's go ahead and take a look at what to mine real quick. So let me refresh this page real quick. That's actually my whole farm. Let's go back to a 3070. So a single 3070 at, let's change this to 10 cents per kilowatt hour. We are looking at -3 cents on Radiant, -5 cents on Lithium, -12 cents on Kaspa, -12 cents on Flux, and -14 cents on Ethash. Anything else interesting in here? Nah, not really. But we do need to take a look at Nexa's profitability. Nexa had a very large pump over the weekend. As you can see, I got the chart pulled up here. We went from a low of about 129 all the way up to a high of about 362, which is pretty impressive. Unfortunately, we're giving back a lot of those gains. I know a few of you out there took advantage and sold close to the top here, which was probably a smart move. Me, I pretty much hold on to everything. I don't do a whole lot of trading, just trying to avoid a bunch of different transactions on my taxes. So I figured I'm just going to hang on to most of these until we get to the next bull run. We'll see if that turns out to be a good or a bad strategy. Anyways, so as far as profitability on Nexa is concerned, let's go ahead and pull this up here. So on the whole farm, just a few minutes ago, profitability comes in at $2.80 per day, but that was before this massive candle that you see here. Let me go ahead and zoom in. So we dropped from 0.71 and we're currently sitting at 0.239, or yeah, 5 zeros in front of that. Anyway, so current profitability on a single 3070. Let's take a look at it. And this is at 10 cents per kilowatt hour, by the way. Now there may have been some improvements in hash rate. I think WildRig may have had a new update that's gotten a little bit more efficient. I'm seeing some reports that it may not be as stable. But right now, we are still profitable at 14 cents per day at 10 cents per kilowatt hour on a single 3070 mining Nexa, which is pretty good, you know, compared to what we've been dealing with on everything else. Anyways, moving on, I got an article that I wanted to share with you guys in regards to miners being responsible for returning power back to the grid in Texas. It says 1.5 million houses could be powered by the energy Texas miners returned. So during the winter storm in Texas in December of 2022, Bitcoin mining operators returned up to 1.5 megawatts of energy to the distressed local grid. It became possible due to the flexibility of mining operations and the ancillary services provided by the state authorities. In his commentary to Satoshi Auction Fund, Texas Blockchain Council President Lee Bratcher stated that miners returned up to 1,500 megawatts to the Texas grid. This amount of energy would be enough to heat over 1.5 million small homes or keep 300 large hospitals fully operational, according to the calculations from the Bitcoin advocacy group. While there's no specification regarding the exact time period in which miners have accumulated such an amount of power, the global Bitcoin mining hash rate dropped by 30% on December 24th through the 25th of 2022. Miners appeared to be the model participants of ancillary services in the state, which stimulates customers to reduce their consumption during peak demand in order to stabilize the grid. So it's nice to see the miners cooperating, and it looks like they're cooperating better than anyone else when it comes to facilitating shutting off equipment in order to put energy back into the grid. And this just goes to show you that the argument that, you know, Bitcoin mining is bad for the environment is not necessarily true. You know, there's a lot of gray area here, but it all depends on how it's used and what type of scenarios that we're in. But, you know, in reality, this seems to be a very positive thing for the Texas grid, and I hope that it continues. Now, I know some other states are going backwards in this particular situation. If you look at somewhere like New York, say, for example, or possibly California. By the way, one of my videos talking about adding solar to your home in order to offset your mining costs, I had a few people comment that were in states that are having difficulties getting net metering. And somebody pointed out that right now in California, it's about to go into effect where they're only going to pay 25% of the rate that they're charging you for electric when you put electric back into the grid, which is absolutely ridiculous. And then also in regards to, you know, things that are going on in California, they're also being told that they're not accepting any more solar systems, and it's not doing anyone any good because they're already at capacity. So if that means there's enough people putting electricity back into the grid that they won't take on any additional customers wanting to net meter, then it seems like it's offsetting 100% of their electric that they're charging other customers for, which is just, for one, it's awesome that that much electricity is being produced by solar, but it's really crappy that California has such terrible politics in this types of things. Anyways, moving on, a couple other articles just wanted to highlight. We've got, why is the crypto market up today? Public filings reveal a $3 billion crypto trader who still lives with his mom. And then we've got revoke your smart contract approvals as soon as possible, warns crypto investor. Bitcoin core developer claims to have lost 200 plus BTC in a hack. Bitcoin core dev hack highlights self-custody risk, community responds. Then we've got Mexico's digital peso delayed, unclear launch date. Digital currency group under investigation by U.S. authorities. And then we've got Bitcoin Sengo coin and the Central African Republic. And then we've got, is this Weir? Imposes up to a 90% withdrawal limit for all users. And then lastly, Ferrari cuts ties with crypto sponsor ahead of 2023 Formula One season. One other thing that I wanted to recommend to you guys, if you're not following Coin Bureau, earlier today he had a video that was talking about internet censorships and bills that are currently in the process of being passed. If you guys are not familiar with his channel, I highly recommend giving it a like and a follow. Then moving on, so let's talk about the 4070 Ti for a minute here. So Keaton of Hyvon was kind enough to share some of his hash rates. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. So Rapid Mining already covered a bunch of screenshots that Keaton had shared, but in Rapid's Discord we were talking about the hash rates on the 4070 Ti and some of my predictions that I had. Let me scroll up and see if I can find where this conversation started here. This might take just a moment. It might take longer than a moment. Sorry, guys. I had this pulled up at one point, but then I started I started the conversation again this evening. So let's see here. All right. Here we go. So I had asked Keaton how close I was on my predictions, and he went ahead and shared all of these numbers. Now I've taken this information and I've updated the spreadsheet, and I really wanted to cover this with you guys. So what is surprising to me, or maybe it shouldn't be surprising, but I think the lackluster video that Rapid put out in regards to efficiency on the 4070 Ti, it just made it seem like it was a terrible card for mining and they just weren't impressed with it. However, what if I told you the 4070 Ti is actually the most efficient GPU there is out there, even more efficient than the 4090 across almost every single algorithm? So let's go over the numbers. So first of all, here was my comparison chart. This is the 4070 Ti. We had really high expectations for CAS, but didn't get anywhere close to that. But the jury is still out. I mean, these are the very first hash rate tests that we're getting. I think there's a little bit of room for improvement, but definitely don't see us getting anywhere close to this 16 mega hash per watt. That was a pie in the sky dream, I think. However, based on the numbers that Keaton had shared, let's take a look at this. So we're getting 1064 mega hash at 160 watts, and that's an efficiency rating of 10.03 or 10 mega hash per watt, compared to a 4090 at 9.17. That's almost a 10% increase in efficiency on Caspa. And then next we've got Ergo. So the 4090 came in at 263 mega hash at 200 watts for an efficiency rating of 1.315. And look at this, based off of Keaton's numbers that he's sharing, 134.1 mega hash at 83 watts. Look how much higher the efficiency is here. We're talking about roughly 30% better efficiency on Ergo compared to a 4090, which is currently the highest efficiency there is on any GPU. So we got a 30% increase on top of the most efficient GPU on Ergo. I think that's significant. Next, we've got Kapow or Ravencoin. Now, Ravencoin, Neoxa are pretty similar hash rates, but Nexa, I should point out, is not very similar. Instead of 32 mega hash on, what would it be, Ravencoin. We're actually getting more like 70 to 72 mega hash on Nexa. So those are significantly different, but let's just take a look at Ravencoin. So on Ravencoin, we're getting 32.74 mega hash at 150 watts. And you compare that to a 4090, 64 mega hash at 300 watts. Look at the difference in efficiency here. We're still a little bit more efficient on a 4070 Ti. And then next we've got Zelhash, which would be Flux. On a 4090, we're getting 144 mega hash at 330 watts, efficiency of 0.436, compared to a 4070 Ti getting 93.5 mega hash at 168 watts, an efficiency rating of 0.556, which is even better than my prediction and even better than the most efficient GPU, which would be a 4080 at 0.516. And then lastly, we've got ETHash, and here is the only algorithm that I have found so far. And again, this is with very little testing. We've only got one person reporting hash rates on a 4070 Ti right now. And I do put a lot of faith in Keaton's overclock, so let me just say that. This is probably going to be pretty close to the best that we can get, but time will tell on that. So we're coming in at 64 mega hash at 131 watts, an efficiency rating of 0.488, which is pretty close to the 4090. But if you look at the memory bus and the bandwidth and things like that compared to a 4090, it's just ridiculous. It's basically the same memory as a 3060 is what you're getting on a 4070 Ti. But, you know, as far as where my predictions came in, we were really close on Flux. I think, you know, given the amount of power that we're looking at on ETH, you know, if we jump this 131 watts up to 180 watts, would we go from 64 mega hash to 80? I think that's actually pretty possible. You know, these are max efficiency, but this is probably pretty accurate on where we would be sitting on ETHash. And then if you take a look at Kapow, we predicted 44 mega hash at 235 watts, but here we're using almost 100 watts less and getting about 32 mega hash. So if we push the power up to, let's say, 235, would we get 44 mega hash or better on Kapow? And unfortunately, I don't have a 4070 Ti to test, but I think we'll find out pretty soon. And then next, as far as Ergo is concerned, I predicted 157 mega hash at 146 watts, and that looks like it was pretty far off the mark. We're getting 134 mega hash at 83 watts, which is considerably better than my prediction. And then, of course, we already know how we came in on Caspa. But yeah, so a couple of other things to compare this against. So I wanted to just follow up on a comment that someone had left. Let me see if I can find his comment here real quick. Bear with me. I have to zoom in real far to open my notifications here. So this gentleman here was saying that I shouldn't have been comparing the 4070 Ti to a 3090 Ti, that I put it in the wrong tier. He misspelled tier. That should be T-I-E-R, I believe. But regardless, you know, this was a comparison, in my opinion, based off of dollar amounts that you were spending, not necessarily efficiency and hash rates. But, you know, if we want to compare this to, let's say, for instance, a 3070 or a 3070 Ti, well, let's go back to the chart here. So a 3070 cost you maybe about 350 bucks on the used market. You get 526 mega hash in Caspa at about 62 watts, efficiency at 8.48, which is still really good efficiency, but not quite as efficient as a 4090, right? But of course, the 4070 Ti is beating out everything. Now let's talk about how much money you're spending per mega hash. So here you can see 1064 mega hash divided by our MSRP at $800 is roughly 75 cents per mega hash. If you compare that to a 3070, we're at 67 cents, or a difference of 13% savings if you were to go with a 3070 as opposed to spending the money on a 4070 Ti. However, over time, you could potentially make that up with the efficiency of a 4070 Ti. And then next, we've got a difference of, let's see here, 172%. Pay no attention to this 272. Everything's going to be 100% across the board, so we're minusing 100%. So if, for example, this would be 13% better, this would be 172% better, this would be 109% better, this would be 76% better, and this would be 116% better. So the 3070 is a better buy when you compare mega hash per dollar spent by this amount here, or this percentage here. And then, sorry, I know this is probably confusing. So 13% better buy, 172% better buy, 109% better buy, 76% better buy, and 116% better buy, depending on what you are mining. And then next, if we take a look at the 4090 compared to a 4070 Ti, what we're looking at here is 81 cents compared to 75 cents. So obviously the 4090 is not as good of a buy price per mega hash as a 4070 Ti. And then when it comes to ergo, same story, but not by much, right? Very insignificant difference. It's a difference of about 2%. And then here on Ravencoin, it would be a difference of about 2.3%. And now on Flux, though, which, you know, if you're a big fan of Flux and that's what you're mining, the 4070 Ti is a 30% better buy than the 4090. And then lastly, on ETH hash, it's basically a wash. There's not much difference there as far as dollar per mega hash spent, right? So, you know, if you're thinking about buying or accumulating more hardware for GPU mining, then it's pretty obvious that a 3070 is going to be a better buy, and you may potentially hit your return on investment faster when GPU mining is profitable. However, if you're strictly going off of efficiency alone, the 4070 Ti is currently the most efficient GPU that you can buy. Now, you compare that to money spent per hash rate, then again, you know, a 3070 looks like a better buy. But as time goes on and these older GPUs start to get phased out and efficiency really makes a difference, then, you know, what I'm hoping is that Nvidia and AMD both get a dose of reality now that GPU mining is not as profitable as it used to be, and these prices start to come down. But we're just going to have to wait and see, guys. I think we're getting pretty close to an inflection point, and hopefully we'll see some prices come down sooner rather than later, but, you know, time will tell. Anyways, last thing I wanted to cover with you guys before we get out of here is just to show you some of the videos that are out there. I think a lot of people are pretty new to the channel. You're really used to me going over, you know, the daily news and profitability and stuff like that, but there's a lot of videos that I made prior to that before I started sticking to this format. And, you know, if you're really interested in some really cool looking mining rigs, I've got several that I've made very custom that you guys should probably check out. And I've got a lot of content about the installation of my solar system or solar panels. And I just wanted to go over some of these here. So we're going to go down all the way to the bottom and just kind of work our way up here. There's quite a few. Bear with me. So I've been making videos now for getting close to a year. This is showing roughly about 6 to 7 months ago, but really it's been about 8 or 9 months. So we've got some of the rigs that I've made here. We've got some talks about taxes. We've got talks about dual mining ETH and Caspa when they were both still mineable. But here we see, you know, basically a detailed parts list of my solar array that I have, and I spent under 3,000 for 7,500 watts worth of solar panels. Got a 6,000 watt inverter. Did all of the installation myself. There's part 2 of the video, and then I guess I'd consider part 3 this video here where it says it's alive. If you guys want to check that out, that's pretty much a wrap up of everything after it was completed. And yeah, there's a lot of videos in here. Also want to point this one out, this Back to the Future. I would really like to get away from describing the size of our farm in Ethereum's hash rate, since ETH is no longer the de facto coin to mine. And if you're interested in that type of conversation, please check that video out. So to get back to the 4070 Ti real quickly before we get out of here, I just want to add one last caveat to this conversation and say that, you know, when you look at whether or not the 4070 Ti is a good buy, I think what Keaton and Rabid were both expecting was what he states right here. The 4070 Ti is half the price and half the performance. It should be half the price for 3/4 of the performance. And if you look back at the 3000 series GPUs, that statement would be accurate. But as I said, with Nvidia these days, that's not really a reality. Now, what I do want to say is, if you're looking at a 4000 series GPU, I highly recommend that you hold off until we get the 4070, because I do expect some really good things out of the 4070 as far as mining is concerned, and hopefully the price will be where we expect it to be, which could come in anywhere from $499 to $599 is what I'm hoping. But again, we're just gonna have to wait and see. Anyways, appreciate you guys watching the video. Do me a favor before you get out of here, hit that like and hit the subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.